chapter 11, and we're up to number 17. So till now, we've been saying where you do need a mezuzah. Now we're going to mention where you don't put a mezuzah. So 17, Yud Zayin. Beis HaMerchatz, a bathhouse. We don't really have too many public bathhouses anymore. Baruch Hashem, everyone has their own bathroom. Sometimes several in a house. I guess they still have like these Turkish baths and different things, but used to be the whole town got to share their dirt together in the water. Or a bruski, or a tannery, a basic tefillah, a mikveh. Paturim, they are exempt. All of these places are exempt from having a mezuzah. How come? Because she'einam lediras kavod. They're not a respectful dwelling area. Now they're made for dwelling. Dwelling is not only sleeping. Dwelling is for your needs. So that's why even a storehouse, if you have a garage and you don't sleep in your garage, but you keep your belongings there, it's for your things. If the garage is only ever used for a car, then perhaps not. But when you store your other things, and maybe it's a bit of a workshop and all these things, so it's something that you use that needs mezuzah. So a bathhouse, the bathroom. So let's not talk about the bath, with a toilet bathroom. Just to say, sometimes you have a separate, just say a shower or a bath. So that's part of your living. Right, so it is a base dira, it is a living area, but it is not a respectful one because people aren't dressed. Similarly, the tannery is not a respectful one because it smells terribly. It's avol refes bakar, but a barn, a stable, the chaydish magdilim by oifus, or a building, a room which you raise chickens in, a base of tevin, or an eitzim, or a storehouse, storage shed for your wood or your straw. The oitza shel yayin, shel shamashkin, or like a wine basement, wine cellar, or other drinks. Im yesh them shir bias, if they're big enough, meaning 4x4, 4 amas by 4 amas, which is, we said, in approximately 4 feet by 4 feet. Sayovim, they are chayiv. The yesh poitrim, but some say that they're also exempt, and really what it depends is if it smells and has waste. So we'll end up seeing that the wine cellar is not so much a question, but a barn, stable could be. Yudches, number 18. Oh, someone else in, let them in. Okay. Place where there's lots of children, or sometimes people bathe there. So again, used to be people didn't have a bathroom. You had your one-room house and used to set up your big tub, and you boiled some water and you poured it in. That's how you had a bath, right? So if it's a place where children, small children are there, and they're not toilet trained, or they're running around not properly dressed, or a place where people sometimes wash, or people urinate there. So again, people didn't have set bathrooms, so people had like a bedpan, and that's type thing, and that's what people used. So if this area is used for these type of activities, but it's also used for your living activities, it's where you eat, you sleep, the same thing. So your chases mezuzah. So when you're bathing or urinating something, you need to cover over the mezuzah. So again, just to mention, people lived in one room usually, maybe 2 rooms, and you had your plank that was a table. It was on some like crate type things, and you would take it off, and now it became a bed. Put it low, became a bed. That was how it worked. And you had your bath in that room, and your whatever other needs. So when it was used for the things that aren't respectful to the mezuzah, they're essential for a human, but not appropriate, not covered, not respectful for the mezuzah. So we cover the mezuzah during those activities. Right. So likewise, I mentioned in the last lesson that I have mezuzahs
Rabbi, cover it with what? A piece of cloth?
No, so I'm going to explain. You could do. So I was giving examples. So I mentioned in my house I have clear plastic mezuzah cases. So part of the decoration, well, not the mezuzah decoration, but rather than have some fancy box, the nice look is the mezuzah itself. You can sort of see the outline. So that's fine, but not. That's fine because my kids are older. Baruch Hashem, they all grew up. But if you had little babies and you're going to change the baby, then a see-through case is not really appropriate. So cover it would either be a case, this is a case that is solid, you can't see through. So it's wooden or metal, although we mentioned that a lot of people are accustomed to use metal. In other words, the mezuzah is not seen. Or you could put a piece of cloth or something over it. So during that activity. So at that time. Now, when we say that sometimes, so you have the mezuzah out, so to speak, and sometimes covered, the davka is most derech oroi. That's when it happens from time to time. It's your dining room, and occasionally the grandkid comes around and it gets changed. So it's from time to time, so you just cover the moment. So that's when you rely on covering. But if this room is established, that's its use, like our bathrooms today, where that's what it's used for, that room. It might be big enough for the mezuzah, but its set use is for all the things that mezuzah need to be covered. Then we go in the hamid shamkli, the shofchin, for example. It's a place where there's a permanent urinal. It's using those examples because we didn't have plumbing when this book was written. But like our bathrooms, and we don't rely on covering it. We just don't put a mezuzah in that door. So bathrooms don't have a mezuzah. That's both the bathrooms where we go to the bathroom or the washing. Sometimes it's separate rooms. Most people diapers today use disposable, but if it's a laundry where you wash diapers, then also the laundry wouldn't have. So today's laundry, and where we have disposable diapers, really is just washing clothes from stains. It's not washing, human waste. Then we do put a mezuzah. But if someone uses this washing cloth diapers, then they wouldn't put a mezuzah on that door. So it all depends. So we've got 3 levels. We have rooms that are used for regular things, and they need mezuzah. Then you have a room that is occasionally used for something that's not respectful for mezuzah, and then we cover the mezuzah at that moment. And then we have rooms that are designated for activities that are not respectful for mezuzah. They may all be essential human activities, but it's not respectful for mezuzah. And then we don't put a mezuzah there at all. That's the three steps. Okay. Your test number 19. Also a house or a courtyard where a non-Jew resides there. That is exempt from the mezuzah because the non-Jew doesn't have an obligation on the mezuzah. So it could be your house, you're renting it out, but it's non-Jew lives there, so you don't need to put a mezuzah. So number 20. You have a cellar or basement that the door and the door frame are flush with the earth, with the ground. So you see them, in Phoenix, you don't really have basements. You see it a lot in New York with the stores where you have the entrance to the basement is built into the sidewalk, and they open it up and they have deliveries. So it's not like a door that's above ground. It's a door that's in the ground. It's like part of the ground. Right? So if you have a basement, you have a door like that. Potter, you don't put a mezuzah on a door like that. So a lot of those doors might not be the minimum size for a doorway. But even if they are, they have a diras keva because it's only considered a doorpost in respect to mezuzah if it's standing. Right. So although those basement doors do have a door frame of some sort, but that's not considered a doorpost for the mitzvah mezuzah. It has to actually be erect above the ground. Okay. 21. If you rent a house outside of Israel, so there's no mezuzah there, and you moved in, you are exempt from mezuzah for 30 days. To the Havadir's Keva, because till 30 days is not called a permanent dwelling. Right? It's still a hotel room, right? Till you've been there 30 days. And then once you've been there 30 days, you make a bracha and put out mezuzahs. Now, some people, even within the 30 days, they put one on the front door, just so it shouldn't look like there's a Jew without a mezuzah, and then on the 30th day, they take it down. And then make the bracha and put it back up and put all the other mezuzahs on the rest of the interior doors. But you don't necessarily have to do that. So as we mentioned, this is outside of Israel. In Israel, even when you rent, the first day you got to put a mezuzah, because Israel is always designated as a permanent dwelling place for a Jew. 22. You move out of a house. So you've been living there, you got your mezuzah up, everything's perfect. Now you're moving. You won the lottery and you're buying a 300-bedroom mansion. Please don't do that if you win the lottery. That would be a bit of a waste. But you moved on your house. And another Jew is moving in to where you're moving out. You can't. You shouldn't take the mezuzahs off. It's going from one Jewish abode to another Jewish abode, so the mezuzahs should stay there. Whether you nicham, but you should leave them. But sheni shalom le'avuram. But the second one should pay you for them. Second one should pay you for them. It's especially some people have, they got really top of the range, $150, $200 mezuzahs, maybe 10 of them throughout the house. It's a bit of expense to leave them and just buy from scratch again. So, but you do leave them, and the person should buy them. If someone's not going to pay, you can put cheaper ones up. Also, switch them, but you should leave a mezuzah there. 23. A person should be very diligent. Should be very careful about the mitzvah mezuzah. Because it's an obligation everyone at all times. In other words, it's a 24/7 mitzvah. So it's going at all moments. So other mitzvahs, obviously you don't want to miss any mitzvah. You want to grab every opportunity possible. But another mitzvah, if you missed it, okay. So for 10 seconds you missed it, whatever it is. This mitzvah, if it's not happening, it's like 24/7 not happening. And when it is happening, it's 24/7 happening. So it's really one of the fundamental mitzvahs because of that. Whenever you enter or leave, you encounter the unity of God. Shmoi shel Kodesh Baruch Hu, you got the name of God. Well, first of all, the unity because has the Shema Yisrael, but you also encounter the name of God because it has the name Shakai. I'm not pronouncing it properly because we don't say Hashem's name, but a shin and then a dalid and then a yud. The name Shakai is on the outside, and when you notice that, the Yizkoi Havasoi, so what's going to happen? And it's recalling his love. And it's going to awaken from your being lethargic. It's going to make you realize that there's nothing that really endures in this world. Nothing's permanent, nothing's real except for the creator of the world. So just seeing it, and that's why some people particularly touch it. Once you touch it, you kiss it, but some people just remind themselves. And as soon as you consciously realize this, it's going to return a person to the straight ways. All right. I mean, all of us from time to time, we get caught up in whatever we're doing. Sometimes it happens, or we get caught up. Life just takes us over, and we're perhaps not as spiritually focused as we could or should be at that moment. But by walking out the door, being conscious of the mezuzah, that if we are conscious of it, it puts us back where we should be. Our sages of the Talmud tell us, whoever has tefillin on his head and arm, sitzes on his clothes, and a mezuzah on his door. Or for the ladies, which is a mezuzah on the door. He has a chazaka. We're going to explain this term in a moment. Let's loosely call it an assurance. It's not really an assurance. We'll explain chazaka in a moment. That he'll never do anything wrong. Right? So let's just go to chazaka. So chazaka can mean a lot of things, and then we'll come back and explain this idea. So one idea of chazaka, not really what we're speaking about now. One idea of chazaka is, in English they have a anything can happen once, twice is a coincidence. Once is an accident, twice a coincidence, and three times, the person was actually trying to do something. Someone steps on your foot once, it happens. Twice, three times, either they're being reckless or they're deliberately stepping on the foot. So when something happens three times, it gives us a certain concept. Another example would be, someone comes, those who come across this in the Talmud, someone comes across someone and they say, you're on my land. And he says, I bought it from you. He says, where's the deed, the contract that you bought it? He says, I lost it. So we say, if this person has been on the land for 3 years and this guy who claims to be the owner knew about it and he never complained before, we believe the person who says he bought it. Because we'll say someone might let someone use their land 1 year. Fine. 2 years, perhaps. No one's going to let someone use their place 3 years. If they didn't buy it or they're not paying rent, something's happened. No one's going to let it happen. So once something happens 3 times, it takes on a certain strength in halacha, called chazaka. Now, chazaka can't overrule absolute proof. Someone have a question?
Yes, I know this is probably a question more from the Gemara Baba Batra, but I want to find out why, a squatter comes on a piece of land and he owns it. He stays on there for 3 years. You're saying that he can be called the owner of that property in Eretz Yisrael?
Well, what we're saying is he's not the squatter. Because why would anyone let someone stay 3 years on their property?
Well, they may not know about it.
Oh, okay, if they don't know, it doesn't count. They have to know.
They have to know. I see.
They have to know, and they have to have had the opportunity to protest. Right? If the guy knew and he was sitting in prison, I mean, just make up an example, so he never had an opportunity to protest, it also doesn't count. But if someone knew and he had the opportunity to protest, and he wakes up year 4 or 5 and he says, hey, what are you doing? We believe the guy that he bought it and he's lost the contract. Because who lets someone use their land for 3 years?
Somebody that's
So-
out of the country for
The
3 years.
star,
Okay, so if he's
It's not-
outside the country, then either he didn't know or he didn't have the opportunity to complain.
Yeah.
But if he did know and he did have the opportunity to protest, but he didn't, so we believe the guy said he bought it, because a normal person is going to protest. They're not going to just
Even
let
if-
someone. So even if what?
even if he has a star to prove that.
So even if I have a contract that I bought it once upon a time, this guy is so. Once he's been there 3 years, the onus of proof is on me to show why I didn't protest. So
They
I'd have to
call it-
show,
they
I
call
was
it-
in China. I didn't know. I had there was medical issues in my family. I didn't have time to, God forbid, I didn't have time to go to Beis Din to protest. Whatever it is.
The rabbi, they call it the right of possession, or the right to ownership.
Well, yeah. So what we presume is that since a normal person would not let someone else use the land for 3 years in a row,
Yeah.
that gives credibility to his claim that he bought it.
Yeah.
So that's what chazaka means. Comes from the root of the word is like chazak, like strength. It gives strength to his claim, makes it more believable. In this case, the chazaka is that we know, if you have, let's say, a stick, you can break it. If you have 3 sticks wrapped together, it becomes much harder to break. So we say these 3 mitzvahs of tefillin, tzitzis, and mezuzah. The person has those 3. They're all signs and reminders of Hashem's power and of Hashem's unity and of the mitzvahs and of Torah. The person can get those 3 in. It makes a huge difference. Changes the person. And spiritually, and even naturally, then the person has less chance of doing something wrong.
Rabbi, one other question.
Yeah.
Backtracking a little bit to when you rent a home, when you're renting a house, you say after 30 days, then it's appropriate to put a mezuzah up on the door.
Yeah.
Why
That's
is
when you
it
become
30
obligated.
days? Why 30
30
days?
days is when we say that it's now become a permanent residence. I mean, permanent doesn't have to mean the rest of your life, but I mean, it's a set residence. Less than 30 days, people, you stay in a hotel for a week, for 2 days, whatever it is, you pop in here, you pop in there. 30 days, that gives a sense of permanency.
But where did the time period come from? Where the 30 days come from? Why is it 30 days specific? Just curious.
30 days, because we say 30 days is
It's a month.
it's a month, which is it's the smallest body of time that's also significant.
I see. Thank you.
No
Rabbi,
problems.
what-
Yeah,
Rabbi, what language, Hazorka, is that Hebrew or Aramaic?
Chazaka is Hebrew. It
So
got
what's the
absorbed
exact-
into Aramaic, and it also absorbed into Yiddish as well. But
Okay,
it's
what's
originally
the
Hebrew.
exact translation of that word in English?
Chazaka means a
A strong claim.
strength to whatever it happens to be. Whatever you're saying this is a chazaka for, it adds a strength to it. So that's
You're
the root of the
confusing
word, but I
me
would say
even
even
more.
comes to legitimacy. The strength of legitimacy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure anyone would translate as legitimacy, but in this context, we're
Okay.
talking about the field,
That's-
for example. It gives a strength of legitimacy.
Okay. That's a little bit more clear to me now.
Yeah, because if a guy, after 1 month, someone says, "Hey, you're on my field," he says, "You sold to me," and in court they say, "Where's the deed?" And he says, "I lost it." Well, people normally take care of their deeds pretty well for a month. In the old days, didn't, mice can eat them, different, it happens after time. But once it's been 3 years and the person could have complained, he had the opportunity, he had the knowledge. Since regular people don't let someone use their field for 3 years, and this guy, he was working there undisturbed publicly, and he says, "Yeah, I bought it." Oh, but the mice ate don't have the contract anymore. The fact he was there 3 years undisturbed strengthens his claim to a point of legitimacy. It seems like a legitimate claim now. Unlike when he was there for 1 month and he goes, "Oh, I lost my contract."
Would that hold up in court?
In the
If
base,
he
then
didn't have a
it'll hold up.
contract, he didn't have a
So-
contract, he had nothing to prove that he
Well,
was.
he has witnesses that he's been using it
Okay,
for 3 years consecutively. He has to bring witnesses that he's actually been using it. And the other person can't explain why he didn't complain for 3 years. The other person has a legitimate reason, he was in Australia, and then the COVID lockdown, they didn't let him out of the country for almost 2 years until he got back and got himself organized, and he goes, so that would be a good reason.
yeah,
You could explain why. It doesn't have to be something so extreme either. But if the person cannot explain why he didn't protest earlier, and the other person has witnesses that he's been using it consecutively and openly, then we're going to believe his claim because he's in possession of it. In other words, we're going to say that his claim is good enough. The other person has to prove.
I heard in the United States, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah, but see, the difference in the United States, at certain places, if you have a squatter and he'll admit, "I just moved in." Yeah, I just moved in.
Yeah.
If he's been there long enough, they'll give it to him anyway. Even though over here, the guy has to claim, "I bought it." You can't just say, if his claim was, "Yeah, I just saw empty land. I started working for 3 years and no one said anything," he loses, right? Well, it's the fact the other person didn't complain gives credibility to his claim that I bought it. He's got to say, "I was just a squatter." So squatters, it's not yours. Out. And you know what? You own 5 years rent, whatever it happens to be. It's not exactly the same thing. The question is, in halacha, who has the onus of proof? That's where it goes. So if it's been 1 month and someone says, "Hey, I had this field," you don't work a field necessarily the whole year. Went to play, I was a guy there. So 1 second, he says, and the guy says, "I bought it, but I don't have the contract." The onus on proof is on him to show he bought it. But if a guy was there for years publicly, the onus, and the person could have complained that he didn't, the onus of proof is on him. Yeah.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
What about eminent domain? This is a very similar situation in American law, where somebody moves in on a property, he stays on the property for a period of time, and a person comes with the title and says, "We own this property," and the person claims it's his. I mean, they're squatters, obviously, but they are. So how does that? I mean, it seems that there's
I'd like to try to answer that question if I can, please.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason it is not theirs, if they say that they bought it, doesn't make any difference where they bought it, who they bought it from. That house must be recorded with the county that they live in. And they have to have the proof that they actually bought it when it's recorded. Then nobody can come after them because it shows in county records that it was sold to Mr. X instead of Mr. Y.
Okay, so
can I-
in the Talmudic cases, you didn't have county courts. So that was like that would definitely solve some problems. What you're saying, that may be the solution for today. So
That was
people
great.
they got a document written on a piece of parchment, and unfortunately, everyone understands after a certain amount of time they don't exist anymore.
In some courts, though, they do. If you're using the property regularly and notoriously, you can go
Yeah.
before a judge and they'll say that property belongs to this guy because he's been living on it for so many years and the other person
Yeah.
hasn't claimed
So in
possession.
halacha, it's only going to work if that person's claim was that he bought it or was gifted it. In other words, part of his claim has to be that he got it legitimately. Even if he was there 100 years, if they all admit that he just squatted or he just moved in, that's not going to hold. So the part of the claim has to be that he got it legitimately. And then the other part of it has to be that the person who's claiming, the previous owner who's claiming to still own it, has to, if it's been more 3 years or more, has to prove or give a good reason why they didn't come earlier. Right? And there are legitimate reasons why. But if there's no legitimate reason why, and he's been there 3 years, we can presume, and he's claiming that he bought it, we're going to leave it with him. He has a chazaka. In other words, it's not, we didn't determine a fact that it's his. If we can somehow get a fact, a witness came along and said he's proved that he was lying when he says he bought it. If somehow he could do that, then that
Rabbi?
fact is going to overrule the chazaka. But without knowledge of fact, the chazaka is going to keep it for him. Yeah.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
What happens if a government entity comes in and they want to take over the property? Let's say there's water there that they want to take over, or they want to put a rail system, a rail tracks down, and they come in. Now I know how it operates here in this country, but in Israel, how does that happen? If there's
So let's not about Israel today, but in halacha, the government has the ability to purchase land for the country's needs. So it can't just be we're buying it because they think the governor thinks that'll make a nice house for himself. It has to be they need to build a highway, they need whatever it is. So they have the right, they have to pay for it. They have to pay fair market value. So it doesn't.
So it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, in Australia also officially they pay fair market value, but it doesn't work that way because once the order is on it, the market value goes down by half. Because who wants to buy a house that has an order on it that it can get knocked down? My grandparents, when they were first married, or on the right, the first married, but for sure at the latest when they had little children, bought a property that had an order on it to be knocked down to expand the road. Okay, it hasn't happened yet. House is still standing. Right, so I don't know how many years that's been. It's part of the project has happened, but not that part. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's going to happen. So having these 3 mitzvahs makes a chazaka. It strengthens the person. So in this case, it doesn't mean legitimacy. In this case, it's in the case of the land, it's like strengthening his claim to point legitimacy. Here, it means it strengthens the spiritual situation to the point where probably nothing negative is going to happen.
You said mezuzah, tefillin, and what's the
And
third?
tzitzis.
And tzitzit. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
No problems. Number 24. Since the mezuzah is a reminder of the unity of God, therefore, when you go in and out, you can kiss it. But you shouldn't put your hand on the mezuzah itself. But rather, he's using an example of the glass, but in other words, on the container, the case. So if you have somehow the scroll is just embedded in the door, Shouldn't put your hands on the scroll itself. Put your hand on the case. When you leave your house, while your hand is on the mezuzah, you should say. Now, I think very few people say this today, but this is what people did say. Hashem Yishmai, Hashem Sili, Aliyad Yemini, Hashem Yishmai, Ma'atav Adulam. Hashem is my keeper. Hashem is my protector by my right hand. Hashem will preserve my going and out and coming in from now forever. And there are some people who say this when they leave the house, but it's like a nice thing to do. It's not necessarily a I think it's worth mentioning. It's worth mentioning the famous story with Onkelos, the mezuzah. So, just in the Talmud, there are two Onkeloses, two people of Roman background who converted to Judaism, who had the name Onkelos. And there are stories recorded in the Talmud about each one. And sometimes it's not clear which one is which. So certain things are very clear. Was this Onkelos? Certain things are quite clear. Was that Onkelos? But certain things, it's not clear which Onkelos it was. So many people say that the Onkelos who's printed in most Chumashim, who make an Aramaic translation of the Chumash, is the Onkelos of the mezuzah story, but it's most likely not. That was most likely they're most likely different, different of the two Onkeloses. But it doesn't matter. It sounds better to say it's the same guy, and who should let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? So the Onkelos of the mezuzah story, what happened? He was a nephew of the Emperor of Rome, and so he wanted to convert, but in the Roman Empire, for quite a large period of time, it was illegal to convert to Judaism, penalty of death. So he says to his uncle, he says, you're a very successful businessman. Can you give me some business advice? So he says, yeah, you could buy product that's underappreciated. You get it cheap. And you hold on to it till people appreciate it. And you sell it for a profit. He says, that's what I'm going to do. He says, I'm going to take some money. And he goes off. And he disappears and he converts to Judaism. And he's studying Torah. And, after a while, they're looking for him, but they don't find him. It takes a while. Eventually, he gets found. So the Emperor of Rome, he sent some scholars, some high-ranking people, go get my nephew back. So they go and they start debating with him. And by the end of the debate, they're convinced and they convert to Judaism too. So he sends higher level people to go get him. They go debate with him. And at the end of the debate, they convert to Judaism as well. So he sends a third lot of people, says, don't say a word to him. Just pick him up and carry him out the door and bring him here. So they walk in, they don't talk to him, they pick him up, they carry him out the door. And as they're pulling him out the door, he kisses the mezuzah. And one guy says, what are you doing? He says, you have a king that you have to have guards around the outside and protect him. My king stands at my door and protects me. Okay? And those people converted as well. Finally, they did drag him back. He did eventually get brought back to his uncle. His uncle says to him, how could you do this? He says to him, you told me to. So I told you to. All right? I'm not going to make the law. You can't do it. He says, you told me to pick up merchandise what's underappreciated and cheap. What's more underappreciated today than Judaism? And I'm going to hold on to it till Mashiach comes and everyone appreciates the value and I'm going to make a huge profit. Okay, unfortunately, it's not a happy ending. Unfortunately, he was executed. But
By the Romans?
So by his fine, loving uncle.
No.
So as I said, possibly it's the same Onkelos as who wrote the Aramaic translations printed in many 5 books of Moses, many Chumoshim, but most likely that was the other Onkelos. But that's what happened. So
Similar things happened not too long ago in North Korea, where he killed his uncle too.
okay. Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you put up a mezuzah.
No.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
there's a custom that the Sfaradim have when they're leaving the the base midrash or the sanctuary. They kiss the mezuzah, but they turn around as they're doing it and they walk
Yeah.
backwards. What is the what's the custom?
So the idea of walking out of a shul or a study hall backwards is to be respectful. You don't turn your back as you leave. And to be honest with you, I would
like by the Torah.
Yeah, by the door. Yeah, I would say I'm sure once upon a time all Jews did that. But in Eastern cultures, that still is considered respectful. And we see in the Western world, no one cares about things like that. You walk out. No one walks backwards away from the president of the United States or whatever, They just turn around and they walk away. While in the Western world, Eastern world, we still had kings or high-ranking people, it's still considered respectful practice. So I think it just stayed. When other places it faded out. But technically, that is the right thing to do. And particularly now, mainly due to Israel, but also in America to a certain extent, where you no longer, it used to be a place. This was a custom of the place, and this was a custom of the place. Today, everyone's mixed up. In the same neighborhood, you got all different kinds of Jews, and hopefully everyone lives in harmony, Marcheshvan. And so what happens is a lot of customs that have become transferable. So it's starting to catch on again in some Ashkenazi circles of walking out the shul backwards. That's the idea of not turning your back on the as a sign of disrespect.
Thank you.
That's great. So while we're talking about it, there was this shul in Europe that structurally it wasn't built properly. Right? They didn't hire an engineer when they built it in the 1200s or whatever it was. And very soon afterwards, they had to install a pole between two of the walls in the entrance, a beam in order to be able to hold up the entranceway properly. And so as you walked in, you had to duck as you went under. Otherwise, you hit your head. And this continued for a few hundred years. And in the 1800s, I'm not sure which one, they were able, with some new building technique, to be able to strengthen the structure as a whole and take out this beam. But what happened is when people came into this shul, they still bowed down because since they've been doing for 300 years, it just come the idea, you bow as you enter shul out of respect. So you still had all these people who bowed. And so it went until the Nazis burnt the place down, unfortunately. But so you had hundreds of years. That's what happened.
Rabbi, can I ask a question about
Please.
when you're called to open the Aron Kodesh and take out the Torah and give it to the Chazan?
Yeah.
Who walks away first? Because you have to go around the table and put down the Torah on the table.
Okay. Now, presuming the shul has a setup for that, right? Because some shuls are in very makeshift situations.
No.
Presuming you have the proper setup, the chazan will walk first. The person who's closed the ark, open and close the ark, will follow him.
Follow him and then go around.
So in other words, you follow the
Torah.
So in concept, you should follow all the way. In practice, most people don't. They follow a few steps and then they go back to their seat.
Right.
But in
But by
concept,
us, you have
everyone
to
should
go
follow.
around because the men's place is on the right side. You go to the left. So you have to go all the way around behind the Chazan and then go to your seat.
Yeah. So, well, that's in the ideal world that we should really follow. It's not really following the Chazan, you're following the Torah
Right.
until it goes to its destination. Yeah.
So can somebody else stand by the table and we have to go around him? That's not holding the Torah. He just stands there before we open the Aron Kodesh.
Yeah. So he's standing at the bima.
Yeah.
mean?
Or should it be free of anybody?
Who
Because
stands
the
there?
rabbi usually, the rabbi
Every place
steps
has their
back.
thing.
The rabbi steps back and lets the Torah come through. But sometimes somebody just stands there and doesn't move.
Oh, and they don't let you go past?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people just don't have an awareness of personal space or the public
But
space they're taking up.
they're supposed to move away. Okay.
Well, yeah, they should let everyone go through. Yeah, I mean that's and sometimes people just don't realize. You just got to point it out to them politely,
Right,
and they realize, oh, didn't
Thank you.
that's no problem. Maybe they're hoping as people going around, as the Torah goes, everyone gets a kiss. They're also hoping they're going to get a kiss as they go around. You know, the lonely people, and they want to get a kiss. Yeah. Sorry, David. Yeah.
When you're saying kiss the mezuzah, you mean to touch the mezuzah with your hand and kiss your hand?
Yeah. The case, touching the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people, they just touch the mezuzah and just touch it. They don't kiss their hand. Like they see by the Rebbe, I just felt that the Rebbe didn't want to inconvenience people, that he would just touch the mezuzah and not kiss his hand, because if he kissed his hand, then everybody would have to kiss their hand, and it was just too difficult a thing to demand from everybody.
I don't know. It could be. I don't like to, unless I mean you heard that specifically, but I'm always hesitant to give reasons for great people like the Rebbe. You know, if the reason wasn't said explicitly, because who knows what the reason. You know, there could be
Right.
deepest things. Just to mention the idea is totally off the topic, but the idea of and not to criticize Chassidus, just to illustrate the point.
I
Of
never
why-
saw somebody that didn't.
Of why it's good not to put ideas into the words, you know, not to put words into a great tzaddik's mouth if you didn't hear it directly. You know, the first Gulf War. You know, as Saddam Hussein was threatening to send scuds with chemicals and different things, and so some American, English, you know, whatever, non-Israeli yeshiva bakrim asked their yeshivas, should they stay, should they leave? And many of them were told to leave, not to be there, because, you know, Saddam Hussein made a very logical statement. If America invades him, he'll fire missiles on Israel. Obviously, we all see the connection, right? That's but that was what happened. So in some of the Babaji yeshivas, they asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said they should stay because Israel is the safest place on earth. A large Lubavitch organization in Israel then put advertisements in the newspaper that you should not be afraid, no scuds will fall on Israel. Because the Rebbe is going to be safest place. And obviously that means no scuds will fall there because scuds are deadly. And so they put this ads, Lubavitch Rebbe said, no scuds on Israel. Of course, we know there were 39 scuds, but no one passed away from the scuds. There was one woman, even one Jew was too many, but one Jew, she had a heart attack from the shock, but wasn't directly from the scud. You know, and then you had one scud fell on an American base in Saudi Arabia and over 200 casualties. You know, so it was even more miraculous. The 39 scuds hit, and no one died. But instead of then it being a great Kiddush Hashem, wow, look at the spiritual foresight of Lubavitcher that he was able to say this. It ended up being not so because people had put extra words into his, he said going to save his place. So they presumed that meant must be there's no scuds, because in their mind, that's how you make it a safe space. But in fact, it was something else. So again, so if you heard that's the reason, by all means. But I'm always hesitant, and I'm not saying it wasn't the reason. It could very well have been the reason, even if we didn't hear it. But I'm always afraid to since I came across that incident to ever sort of make assumptions.
Can I tell you something about the mezuzah now that happened, like a miracle?
Yeah, please.
The two women that were taken from Israel that lived in Evanston, which is not far from here, the mother and daughter. Our rabbi's nephew, which has a Chabad in the next village, went over there to their place and put a mezuzah on their door when they were taken. And they were the only ones that were released this week by the Hamas. So they say it's like a miracle that because he put the mezuzah, that they were the only ones that were released.
Could very well be. Yeah, Yehuda, you had your hand up. You had a question?
Yeah, back to what you were saying before, Ben. It reminded me of Chava with the snake. The snake said that that I'm sorry. She added
There's
on
nothing
to
will
what
happen
Hashem
to
had said, that you can't touch the tree.
Yeah,
Hashem never said that.
that's
So
right.
when the serpent pushed her against the tree, he said, "See, nothing happened."
Right. So for those unfamiliar, this is it says the tree you can't eat. He says no, we can eat from all the trees. It's not this one. But she said we can't even touch it.
Right.
It's not part of it. So the reptile pushed against the tree, and see, you touched it, nothing happened. But sometimes when we add things, we end up. Sometimes we think we add things to be stricter, and there are times where our sages tell us to add things to be stricter. But sometimes when we do things off our own bat, to add things we think it's stricter, really sometimes it undermines. So always have to be careful. David, yes.
There's a story that happened before the Baal Shem Tov was revealed as who he was. So in the early days, his brother-in-law was against him because he just thought he was a regular person, Rabbi Gershon of Kitov. So there was a story that the Baal Shem Tov went through a doorway, and the Baal Shem Tov touched the mezuzah but didn't kiss his hand. And Rabbi Gershon of Kitov was very, very upset. And later on, when they checked the mezuzah, they found out that it was invalid. It was puzzle.
Yeah. Just as we're anyway almost finished, since we mentioned, the Baal Shem Tov's father-in-law, he met him while he was traveling, and he got a glimpse of who the Baal Shem Tov was. Even it's sort of a side story, so I don't want to get too caught. Won't have time to finish, but without him realizing the true greatness of the Baal Shem Tov, he saw enough. It says this is who he wants to marry his daughter. So he makes a contract with him, and Baal Shem Tov's got one copy and he's got the other copy. And unfortunately, he never made it home. He passed away on the way home. And the possessions came to the family. They see that the father made a shidduch with someone, and a certain date it's going to be the wedding. And they figured, they knew the father was a great scholar, a great man, but at that stage, the Baal Shem Tov was a hidden tzaddik. He'd been told not to reveal himself yet. So he comes in acting like he can barely read Hebrew, like he knows nothing. Forget about being the greatest scholar of the generation. He knows nothing. And he's got a cabbage leaf as a hat, like a real bumpkin peasant. You can imagine he walks in, and his brother-in-law, who's like chief rabbi of a big city and the wealthy and prominent rabbinic family you can imagine. So he's having an attack. He wants to get rid of this guy. But the sister, became the Baal Shem Tov's wife, she felt, although it does appear odd, but if her father made the shidduch, there's something to it. And while her brother felt maybe the father, he passed away, maybe in an illness, anyway, they got married, and to his wife, he was able to reveal himself who he was. And they spent the next few years before he was revealed. But remember, the poor brother-in-law, he's still embarrassed, He's having he makes a bar mitzvah. All the great rabbis of the area come, and along comes the brother-in-law with his cabbage leaf hat, and a bumpkin, and can't even daven, can't do anything, whatever. So anyway, it was at the end though, when the Baal Shem Tov was not only able to, but instructed to reveal who he was, this Reb Gershon became one of his greatest followers. And I will say that in itself shows you something, the greatness of this Reb Gershon, because a lot of people, even if they make a mistake, once they've put their heels in, they're not going to come back. Someone to turn around and say, actually I was mistaken. That actually is a sign of greatness. It's a big thing. Big thing. Luckily, I don't make mistakes, so I don't have the problem.
There's a story, Rabbi.
My humility keeps me grounded.
There's a similar thing that was said about after the Baal Shem Tov. So his son, Rabbi Tzvi, he was temporarily made the Rebbe for a year, and after a year, the Maggid of Mezrich, Rabbi Dov Ber, appeared to him to change over that he should be the Rebbe, because the Baal Shem Tov appeared to Rabbi Tzvi, his son, after he had passed away, and told him to give over the Rebbe leadership. So a particular tzaddik, I forget who, said that he didn't have to tell what happened. He didn't have to tell that he had his father come to him. He says, you see the greatness of Rabbi Tzvi, because many people, once they get that power and get that position, they don't want to relinquish the power. And Rabbi Tzvi, when he heard the Baal Shem Tov tell him, he told over publicly what was said to him. And so this rabbi was commenting on the greatness of Rabbi Tzvi, similar to what you're saying, that somebody comes into a position and they don't necessarily want to give over the position.
That's it. So Hashem should bless us. We should follow in their footsteps.
Amen.
We should dig in when we need to. We should realize when we make a mistake, and change when we need to as well.
Amen.
It's a wonderful week. And our Sunday blessing of Good Shabbos. Well,
Good Shabbos.
Say everyone good week. Next week, God willing.
Thank you, Rabbi. Stay safe.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Okay.
Like I said.
Thank you.